So one of the things you mentioned when you were in Oregon was the passage of the Affordable Care Act, obviously a big deal in healthcare for the nation as well as for the various states. With the ACA came a whole variety of changes focused on things like transparency, payment reform, delivery system redesign. And I'm wondering, based on your experience, if you could talk about the impact that the health reform or the ACA has had on state level regulation, and whether you envision these changes in healthcare markets impacting how health insurance regulation will continue to evolve going forward.
Sure. Healthcare reform and passage of the Affordable Care Act changed the world of health insurance regulation significantly, had huge impacts for us. I could probably spend the next couple of hours talking about all those changes, but let me focus on kind of three broad areas of change that we've been experiencing and I expect that we're going to continue to experience going forward. The first is really the role of the federal government in what we do in terms of regulating health insurance. Historically, that has really been the purview of states, and we have been the primary regulators of health insurance. With the passage of the Affordable Care Act, though, the federal government now has a much, much larger role in the regulation of health insurance. So we've had 6 years of experience really working with a new regulator. And I'll be honest and tell you, it's been a little trying at times because we're used to, in states, we see a problem facing our market or facing consumers in our market, and we want to figure it out and fix it. And we've historically been able to do that without having to talk to a federal regulator. And now, if we see issues in our market, oftentimes we can't take action until we've had a chance to talk to the federal government. So that's created a huge change in our world. But I think for the benefit of our consumers and our markets, we're continuing to work very closely with the federal government and do all we can to make sure that's a really productive relationship. Second, the Affordable Care Act, of course, ushered in a lot of new regulations and rules for health insurers, which are providing a lot of great benefits for consumers. For example, health insurers can no longer discriminate against people with pre-existing conditions. And there are a lot of new benefits that are required to be offered with health insurance policies. Great things for consumers, but they also require a lot of staff, time, and resources for the departments around the country, and certainly for us in Pennsylvania. It takes a lot of time and resources to make sure that companies are complying with the law. So we have to make sure we have not only adequate staff, but that all those adequate staff have the training they need to make sure that we're enforcing those requirements. And finally, in a world where everyone is now required to have health insurance, and we know that there's a lot of concerns around the cost of health insurance, we have to do all we can as a department to be as transparent as we can about what we do, and also have to work to make sure we're providing good information to consumers so they can make the best decisions for themselves and their families. For example, there's a lot of interest now in our health insurance rate review process, which makes a lot of sense. So we're trying to do what we can to make that process more transparent. And as we get information from carriers as part of that process, make that information as transparent as we can. And also do what we can to provide better information to consumers in this world where they're just a lot more engaged. So one of the things we've done on our part to try to make better information available to consumers is we started a video series. We now have 3 videos, short 5-minute videos on our website, really aimed at trying to provide consumers better information. One of them is aimed at talking about our health insurance rate review process, what we do, what we look at, how we make decisions around health insurance rates. The second is aimed at helping consumers shop for insurance. This is obviously a fairly new thing. Not a lot of fun is what I hear from most consumers. So we've tried to provide some good information about, when open enrollment runs around or comes around, what do they need to be thinking about when they buy insurance? And then finally, we have a lot more people covered today than we've ever had covered by health insurance. So we also did a video aimed at helping people understand how to use their health insurance policy.